for joining us on the program TMI Monday. Just to let you know that we're still on our countdown to Thursday's big one, the ITV Radio Valentine's Special, which of course you know as Couples Classic to celebrate lovers. And just create a time to be there. Lots and lots and lots of fun. Okay, it's 5 days to the 2019 election. I mean, in the last couple of years, we've talked about this, anticipating how the election will go. From some of the statistics available following the publication of voters register over the week by the Independent National Electoral Commission, we have 84 million eligible Nigerians deciding the fate of an all-time record of 18,400 candidates. And the breakdown includes 1,800 for 109 senatorial seats and 2,600 to jostle for 360 House of Representatives slots and 14,000 for 991 State House of Assembly offices. The coming poll has some significant statistical changes, including being the first time the nation's voter register will rise by close to 50% from 57 million in 2015 to 84 million in 2019. Also, 73 political parties are participating in the contest. Another remarkable feature is a close monitoring of campaign finance, which appears to have curtailed the unrestrained splashing of cash that was the case 4 years ago. Already, all candidates are in the field canvassing for votes. Every zone is now important, going by the likelihood of votes available to candidates. The zonal summary of registered voters, according to INEC, is as follows. In the South-South, over 12 million. All right, Southwest 16 million, Southeast over 10 million, North Central over 20 million, and Northwest, that's in the Northwest. And then, of course, over 11 million in the Northeast. Let me run through that again so we don't get it mixed up. In the South-South, over 12 million, Southwest over 16 million, and Southeast over 10 million, North Central over 13 million, and then in the Northwest over 20 million, and in the Northeast over 11 million. Irrespective of the benchmarks adopted, the battlegrounds remain the northern axis with over 44 million votes, and of course the Southwest having 16 million votes. Out of the nation's over 84 million eligible voters, the North and the Southwest control over 61 million votes. Whatever happens in these zones could be the decisive decision-making process that will throw up the the new president or the president of Nigeria come 2019. Well, that's just around the corner. So today on the program, we look at a very critical aspect of the election, the roles of international observers, against the background that it's become a very, very thorny issue in our political discourse, with some threatening fire and brimstone. Some saying we don't want international observers. It's tantamount to interference in our jurisdiction as a country. These are lots more we'll be looking at on the program today, TMI. I have to welcome our panelists. First, let me thank Collins Okonofa, Esquire. He's a regular on the show. Mr. Collins, many thanks for coming on the program.
My pleasure to be here. Thank you.
We also have joining us on the program, Comrade Osaze Stanley. He's a regular on our current affairs. Many thanks for coming on the show.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
I also have joining us on the program, Osahon Obaraye. Many thanks for coming.
Thank you so much, Manila. Good morning.
Barrister Daniel Ogbegia will be our fourth panelist. He'll be here shortly and will join this conversation. Gentlemen, once again, thank you for coming on the program. Let me start with Osahon Obaraye from my extreme left. The die is cast for the 2019 elections. Are you satisfied with the campaign messages, the campaign activities from the political parties?
Thank you so much, Malid. I think I have to thank you for inviting me to this program today. The truth must be told. The campaign going on all parties as we speak today is going on well. It's been expected because it's no longer the game as usual. We'll have it before you sit at home, decisions have been reached, and on the election day, results have been written. So the people are wiser now, the people know more better now. You must go to them. You must take the vote from your rest place, from your comfort zone, to those places to let them know what you can do, what you've done, and what you want to do. So to me, the campaign for all parties, because before it was just muzzle power from party A, party B. Now, I must also tell you that there are some parties that have really also done best in making sure that the politics now is no longer what you can just sit down here to say, this is a party that is going to take the day. So from the campaigns that has been going on now, to speak, for the past 2-3 weeks, since December, we must be factored to ourselves. All the parties, they've buckled up, they've done more than the campaigns we've seen in the past.
Okay. All right. College Esquire, what major intriguing parts of the campaigns are the pictures you see on social media? I mean, stadiums packed out, streets clogged with human beings. Is that in any way telling us anything about the popularities of the respective political parties?
Well, I would say we must treat those pictures that we see with a lot of caution, because as we know, what politicians normally would do would be to procure these people to come to the stadiums with inducements, all right? And so what we have found in the past has been the fact that the pictures that you see, or the crowds that you see back in the stadium full, do not actually reflect at the end of the day when the results are out. You're going to find that you're wondering, because again, you're going to find that the same people you find in Party A's campaign trail are the same people you will find in Party B's campaign trail. Now think about it. If we would have a campaign trail on a weekday at a time when people ought to be at work and the place is packed full, so these people, you mean that they have no work, they are jobless, all right? And this is what actually it means. These people are looking for something to induce them, something that will put some bread on their tables. It do not actually reflect at the end of the day the popularity of any of the candidates. Okay, but it is good. I mean, it shows, of course, that people have been mobilized. At least mobilized, and are now politically aware and all of that. So so far, I think you can say it is good.
All right, let's build up the discussion with your perspectives on the crowds that we see in campaigns rally, particularly the pictures, social media.
Yes, of course. We agree to the fact that in every electionary period, there is need for people to be aware of what the various political parties want to say to the electorate. So in this case, everybody will want to scratch out time to be there, to hear directly, because there are some persons that have not been able to make an informed decision on the basis of who to vote for. Okay. But finding yourself in that kind of environment will give you the necessary views or way to judge who to vote for and who not to vote for. So in this case, I strongly believe that if you see a man in Party A's campaign and you see the same man in Party B campaign, he's only going there to assess this various individuals, to see what they have in stock for them. So in this case, I strongly believe that the pictures you see reflects drastically the decisions of the electorate. Because whether we like it or not, the number of persons you see in that particular area are those who are going to vote. Whether you are jobless or not jobless, as the case may be, but you have your PVC, which is your right to vote and to be voted for. So in this case, if you make yourself available in those campaign grounds, it makes you to be aware of what the party has the stock. But there are situations where people can still have the same access through television. But there are persons who wants to hear directly from the horse's mouth.
And see directly.
Yes.
Okay. All right. We've got Barrister Daniel Wegie joining us. Barrister Daniel, many thanks for coming on the program.
Thank you.
Okay. Just building up the discussion to look at the import of those huge crowds that we see at campaign ground. I mean, I don't know what you make of those crowds. Do they reflect the reality of the popularity of the political parties?
Well, I can tell you, yes, to a very large extent, they reflect the popularity of the parties. And I can buttress this by letting you know that if you see, anywhere you see massive crowd in any rally, you will know it is either of the two major parties. You can't see the other parties, maybe Showore or Durotoye, holding a rally, and they are going to have thousands of people.
But people
in
do
the rally.
to those parties.
So, no,
yeah, I mean, for those rallies, you also have people coming to those rallies.
No,
Yeah.
But you never seen a situation where they do open air rally like that, and they have thousands. They have massive.
Yeah, there was one they
that's
did
what
at NTA TV Pavilion. I mean, the crowd was massive. Yes.
Who did that?
Yes, I think it was Showore when he was in Benin.
Okay,
Yes,
okay.
yes.
I'm not aware.
Yeah,
but
so
it's rare.
Okay.
It's very rare. So to a large extent, you can use it to assess the strength of the parties. For instance, a few days ago, when the president went to Lagos for his rally, you could see the scanty crowd. So that was also a message from the people. At times, people want to send messages, they want to come to your rally. But at times, the political parties also mobilize their members. But even at that, because if you saw what happened in that rally, where when they started, the stadium was, a bit, maybe half full, but when the president started speaking, it was empty. So people were sending a message. So I feel very strongly that the massive crowd rally, goes a long way to show the strength of the party and the acceptance of the party in that environment, in that locality, in that state. Again, it might not really be a true test, because many of those people might not really have PVC. Many of them are also mobilized. The parties, they have a way of sending money through the system, to bring in people from far and wide within the state. Yes, that again, you can look at it that you might not be, but it is to a very large extent, helps to gauge the popularity or the acceptance of the parties in that particular environment.
All right, let's just take up build up the discussion more, because this is campaign period. Let me come to you, Osao. Would you say it's been easier for the ruling party to campaign because they are the party to beat, because they are the party in government, they hold sway in the affairs of the country? Would you say it's been easier campaigning in terms of achievement, in terms of impacts made?
No, I think on this one I will speak as a party person, not as Osao Kabari. No, I will speak as a party person. I'm not going to speak as Osao Kabari. On this issue, it's not been easy. The truth must be told. It's not been easy because I will go back to the way I started. The people are wiser now. The people know more now. So I do say it several times. If it took you 10 minutes, 20 minutes to canvass Mr. Collins Okonofa 4 years ago, it's going to take you close to an hour now to do. So if you're going to stretch an hour in trying to convince more people, you can see that it might take you a decade in canvassing more people. So what we have now is a workload, but we must also shy away from the truth. It will also get easier when the time comes, because how do election really go? My brother also summed it up. Most people shouting gay, gay, gay. Ask them if they have their PVC. You can hear INEC telling you the number, the millions of collected PVC. So you see them shouting, and even those that have PVC, how many of them will also have the time to go spend at least 4, 5 hours, 6 hours on election day for election? So you can see at the end of the day, it's going to boil down to those that are really involved. We have 84 million eligible voters. We cannot also have 10, 15, 20 million on election day people voting. So you can see, let's go back to your question. Is APC getting a very smooth ride on this issue? No. It's harder now because where we had it, where we shot ourselves first in the leg was the primaries. The primaries did not really trigger well from the top to the bottom.
Okay.
And by the time you have a bad primaries, the main election is harder. But if you have a harder primaries, the main election will be easier.
Okay, let me pause you there. Pascal, you want to build on that in terms of the ease of campaign, sending the right message. You want to build on that?
Right now, because as we all know, the electorate has become much wiser. So when you come out now to canvass for votes, you want to be presenting facts before people. All right, it's no longer. I mean, a party in power comes to the campaign rostrum to tell people what we have done. I find it strange that a party in power will be coming out right now to tell people what they want to do after you have spent years in office, and which is what we are seeing right now. A party comes out, a party in power comes out, and I've watched the campaign trail of both the two major parties. All right, the APC and the PDP, and the APC campaign, with all due respect, it's like, you know, a comedy show. One person comes, abuses one other person from the opposition, the other one comes, abuses the other person from the opposition, the other one comes, dances kuru kere dance on this thing, and then they say national anthem, let's go. Nobody has said anything, and I'm wondering, is this a campaign? What have we told people? All right, and then the main person comes and then reads a speech. All right, reads a speech, and everybody's watching, making sure that, you know, he doesn't go out of gauge. He doesn't hand over flag to the wrong person, or he doesn't call a wrong name of somebody, and everybody's watching. And I'm like, what's going on here? Is this a comedy show or what? All right, and what we are looking for at this point in time, in 2019, all right, Nigeria is advancing, for God's sake. We want to see credible candidates who come out to tell us, you know what, this is my antecedents, this is what I have done in the past, this is what I intend to do. All right, in clear terms, okay? We don't want you to come, you know, if you made promises to us in the past and you're coming out now, you want to also tell us how many of those promises you have fulfilled. And that puts you in a tough spot, and which is what I believe the APC has as a problem right now. All right, they have a problem with, you know, matching promises with fulfillment. And that puts them in a tough box.
Okay,
all right,
I'll come back to you in a moment.
And that's where we are right now.
All right, we'll get to that point. Stanley,
yes, I think some of us here, but most especially my panelists, are being economical with the truth. You are targeting the APC, talking about. I want you to understand something. What is the discrepancy between the APC and the PDP in terms of governance? One have ruled for the past 16 years, while the other one is still ruling for 3 years. We'll ask ourselves a simple question. What have you done in that 16 years that you've ruled? So in this case, if you are campaigning to Nigeria, you as well should be telling them what you have achieved and the reason why you should be brought back. Why did Nigeria voted against you people? Those things should be the basis of our discussion. In the same vein, the APC will be telling you exactly what we have achieved. So in this case, I think if the two major political parties that are contesting right now should, as a matter of urgency, begins to tell Nigerians what they will do, what they have done. The same way you are accusing the APC of not telling you what they have done, that is the same way we are accusing.
My question,
excuse me, sir, I'm coming. I have something to explain.
My question is this: in this campaign, this is an electioneering period.
Yes.
Is it easier for the ruling party, being the government of the day, to campaign? Is it easier for them?
Naturally, in a democratic setting such as this, there is no way it can be easy, because both the opposition and the government in power have a very strong capacity. Nobody will say you will sweep off the opposition that they are nothing. No. In this case, the opposition is strong and the ruling party is as well strong. So looking at it from the pluralistic value, you agree to the fact that it would be easy. We agree to that. But I want us to understand something. So he said, when you see somebody dancing, somebody saying this, if that is to say he has not been following this campaign, because if you look at this campaign from the beginning to the end, achievement has been rolled out, and if in our course of discussion we will begin to explain more of the achievement that have been achieved by this current dispensation.
Okay, Barrister, you've mentioned to say something on this ease of campaign. Yeah,
it's very clear. It's hard for them because there's only to campaign on. There is absolutely nothing. You know, at times you will say, oh, there's no government that will not achieve something. apart from payment of salary by the federal government, I don't think there's any other thing that they've done. There's no policy. Everything they promised, they fell short of all of them. They said they would make 1 naira to $1. First of all, it was 520 naira to $1 immediately. They said they will reduce fuel price from then 87 naira to 14 naira. When they came in, they made it 145 naira. And they paid more subsidy. Even when Buhari said then that he didn't understand what was subsidy, that there was nothing like subsidy. But today, they paid, more than 5 times the amount of subsidy that Goodluck Jonathan paid in his government. So a government that came with so much promises, they are still making promises. They've not told us what they did before. They've not told us if they were able to fulfill the promises that they made before. But the Nigerians are aware that they were not able to do that. And not less a person than the wife of the president, Buhari, has agreed that the government has failed completely. So there is nothing to campaign on.
Okay.
So for me, this election ought to have been over since. When the wife of the president came out to say, men of Nigeria, where are you? Take back your country. The wife of a candidate. So ordinarily, it should have been over.
There are those who will disagree with you on that, because the same wife of the president,
you saw the video.
the same wife of the president you're talking about has been about
she's not campaigning. She's in Germany as we speak.
Campaigning for her husband.
No,
there have been instances where that happened.
She traveled on the 5th of January. Since then, she has not returned under the guise that she was sick. She's in Germany as we speak. In 2015, the children were on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook campaigning for their father. But today, there's no mention of their father presidential ambition. They completely went under. In fact, when Atiku Abubakar was in his NTA discussion with Kadirat, Buhari's son was there, but he did not follow the father when the father went to his own. But he went with Atiku. So the point is made, where the wife and the children have completely abandoned their father, they've neglected him to his campaign. Why would they know that Nigeria support him? They know their father more.
You don't have the facts to substantiate the claim.
I'm talking about
that the wife and the children, they've neglected the father. You can't substantiate that. No, you can't substantiate that.
In 2016, sir, the wife came out to say that if things continue the way they were going, that they were not fulfilling the promises they made to the people, that if things continue, she would not campaign for her husband in 2019, and she's fulfilling those promises.
But she's been campaigning.
No, she's not campaigning. She's in Germany. Since 5th of January.
Okay. All right. Let me pursue this. Yeah. No, let me pursue that. Let me pursue that. Let me pursue. I'll come back to you. Osama Barai, I'm coming to you now, because we looked at the ruling party's campaign activities. If the campaign activities have been easier for them, being the government in power, what about the main opposition, the PDP? Would you say the campaign has been easier for them, against the background, like some would always make reference to 16 years that the country had with them in power?
One thing about me is that I find it easier to tell you the way things are. Because if you say it, you just go home relaxing. You don't need to strain your voice. It's like if I come here to tell you this place is not beautiful, I need many more lies to tell you why it's not beautiful. But if I just tell you this place is beautiful, I think that ends your issue. The truth is that it's not easy for party A, neither party B. You can see Obege shouting on top of his voice. You're trying to convince too. You need it. No. You need it. It's not easier. But tell me, Jesus Christ said, if you know you've not seen, cast the first stone. This one will also stand at the podium abusing this one. So both of them, to me, in a sane society, are not supposed to be campaigning. APC, PDP, in a sane society, in a sane environment, are supposed to be sleeping. When we have people with better metabolism coming up, what do we have? These two people now, as we speak, cannot give us a dash of 100 meters. Two of them in a sense. So, to me, but what do we really now do in the context of Nigeria election? If you are not a money bag person, you cannot. That is just it. So the people is, it's like a man married to a bad wife. How will I now do it? That is just it. If not, as we speak now, if Atiku is also campaigning, there are people there that will tell you, no, you should go and sit down. No. If Buhari is also doing same thing, no, go and sit down. So we come here to say it's easy for APC. No, you go back home. Your conscience in your closet will tell you you've lied. If I also tell you, if Obage says PDP just to make everybody happy, you will also go back home and to know it's not easy, because we cannot also sit here to tell you how the election is going to go. It's few days time. Yeah. Nobody can tell you. I cannot possibly tell you now that on Sunday or Monday we should be jubilating. No, because until it is over, it's not over. So this election is at the mercies of those with PVC. Okay. That is it's at their mercy. Yeah. And it's also at the mercy of the people that will pay the highest bidder in the field. We must be factored with facts here. And I think I'm also coming. I've not ended. I say it's also at the mercy of those that will pay the higher bid in the field. Going back to what happened in other places when you heard they were not buying PVC, buying votes for 100,000. So it must also come there. And where will you see those that are ready? People like Obege. Where will Obege see 50,000 or 30,000 to send to electorate? So we have no other option than to follow leaders like Okono for shouting, hey, because there is nothing for us to eat. So PDP, APC, they exploit Nigeria.
Okay, let's pursue there. Let's call this Esquire. Yeah, it's easier for the PDP, this campaign. I'd like to know your thoughts.
Well, truth be told, I mean, as my brother here has said, you cannot say with any degree of certainty, I mean, who's going to come out victorious. You know that there's a lot of disenchantment against the party in power. And that's because they have basically not fulfilled any of their promises. As a matter of fact, this government is recognized as a failed government on every front. Okay, and if we have
College Okonofa.
No. Listen,
this before.
I can tell you.
When you say is a failed government on any front.
On every front. I said on every front.
That's a bit too generalistic.
No, then I can tell you how.
It's too generalistic.
Then I can tell you how.
Because
then I can tell you how.
Immediately you can't substantiate that with your facts and figures.
Would you let me do that?
Yes.
Would you let me do that?
Yes.
Substantiation with facts?
Yes.
Okay, now building up from what Dan said. Now the promises, we're looking at promises. A government comes into power based on promises. All right, these are the things I'm going to do. All right, and then when election time comes, you match them against what they promised and against their performance. Now, tell me, which of the APC promises have they fulfilled? One of them. That they promised this and they have delivered on it. Is it to bring down the dollar rate? Is it to bring down the price of fuel? Is it to bring down the cost of things in the economy? Is it to fight insecurity? Is it to fight corruption? Which of them? They came on the basis of three legs: economy, corruption, and security. On all of which fronts they have failed. Boko Haram up till yesterday still finishing Nigerians. All right, the economy is for the first time. All right, the economy went into recession under the APC government. Now, as for the corruption, we all know about it. Okay, you find the APC is now even the headquarters of corruption. All right, that's where you find it. I can tell you that. You said I should stop. Whatever I say, I should substantiate with facts. Can I give you facts?
In substantiating them, you must present them in line with the set standard of communication in a broadcast environment. When you say the APC is not the headquarters of corruption,
because you know what they try to do.
That's unacceptable. I'm saying there are better ways.
I understand.
Better ways you can make your presentation without.
What they try to do is to tell you that PDP is full of corrupt people, and I'm asking, who are the people in PDP that you say are full of corruption? Who are the people? Is it Akpabio? Is it Amechi? Is it who? That you are talking about? Is it Gando Dollar in Kano State that you are talking about? Who are the people that you are talking about in PDP that are corrupt? All right, you find all of them. How can they are pushing the president as Mr. Integrity? And I'm asking, how can you call Buhari Mr. Integrity with Ochomole as national chairman of APC? Ochomole has a petition against him in the EFCC.
That's an allegation.
Look at the central hospital. Yes. Look at the central hospital that he brought Buhari to commission. That hospital has only rats and rodents as patients right now because there are no equipment in that hospital. They got him to go and be commissioning a cancer center in Lagos yesterday, and I laughed. Buhari was commissioning a cancer center in Lagos on Saturday, and I laughed. Is it not a replica of the one that they did in Benin? We are still waiting for the commission for the hospital. When Buhari came to Benin the other day, people were begging him, please, can you go and recommission that hospital that you commissioned 3.5 years ago? Just a party of deceits. So this is what we are saying. And there are no lies in this thing.
Okay.
It's not propaganda. These are facts that are on ground that you can see.
Okay, so I
all right, so they cannot find it easy at all in any way whatsoever to campaign because they are called all promises cancelled.
Let me pause you there.
Yes, I just want to
beat up on some of the
I just want to clear some certain issues raised. First and foremost, when you are talking about party campaign, you don't need or promises. You don't need to look at what individual said. Look at what the party said. Now, the issue of $1 to $1 was not said by the party. The issue of fuel, reduction of fuel price, according to you, was not said by the party. It was said by this man in the Niger Delta region. What was his name again? The former. Yes. That Tam David West cannot speak for the party. Excuse me, sir. Let me speak. Hold on.
No, but just
Tam David West cannot speak for the party. But let us understand where we are coming from. He talked about the economy. What was the nature of the economy in 1999 before PDP took power? And what was it in 2009? The price of bag of rice that they are campaigning with as at 1999 was 3,000. But when PDP were leaving power, it was about 8,050 naira. If I'm not 8,500, 9,000 naira. Now, as of today, in the year 2012, excuse me, let me speak. In the year 2012, what was the statement of the then Minister of Finance, Dr. Ngozi Okonjo? She complained that the PDP dispensation, that the government is not saving money, that the economy is going through economic challenge, economic recession, that the government should begin to do the needful. But what then happens? Instead of the Jonathan administration to begin to do the needful, they went on looting the money. As of some few days ago, Jonathan brother said he collected the sum of $40 million from the economy of Nigeria to take care of militants. Ask yourself this simple question. Was Jonathan administration satisfying the interest of militants against or at the detriment of the Nigerian people? These are the questions we need to ask ourselves. Let's look forward again. What was the statement of the then CBN governor when the then CBN governor allegedly accused President Jonathan administration of stealing the sum of $49 billion from the NAPC coffer? The then Minister of Finance reconciled this figure to about $20 billion. Do you know what is $20 billion removed from the economy? We already know that Nigeria was plagued, and the Nigerian economy has been plagued with economic imbroglio. So when you are saying that President Buhari came into power, the APC came into power, begin to face economic recession, let us be sincere with ourselves. Ask yourself this simple question. Why don't we have light again in Nigeria? The sum of $16 billion was spent under the PDP administration. Until date, go and look at the BEDCs or DISCOs, as the case may be. They have been empowered to be more powerful than the government. Not until recently, the administration of Governor Obaseki cried out publicly, saying that even just a mere BEDC have the capacity to frustrate the effort of government in generating alternative power, even when this same group of persons have failed. Let's look at the level. What about the $2 billion collected from this economy by Dansuki? Put this all together. What do you expect in such an economy that has been looted in a very high extent? Let me submit, sir. Again, recently, we know what is happening in this country. The same Atiku who was part and parcel of the past, he was then vice president who came to Aduawa to commission Red Sand as road. He's still coming out for Nigerians to vote for him. Let's be sincere to ourselves. If you must accuse APC, first of all, check yourself. You cannot begin to remove the stone, the stone in my eye, whereas you have log of wood in your eye.
Okay, thank you.
Be sincere to us. And now, sorry, you talk about the achievements.
Hold on.
I want to tell him about the achievements, sir. Please
come back to that.
Please. I don't want to forget. The achievement that he's talking about, the Buhari. I want to tell him, sir.
Can you hold on? I'll come back to you. It's a TMI Monday. If you just join us, we thank you so much. Of course, the heat here, it's well, thank God the ACs are on, and that's why these guys here in the studio, they are not sweating. But it's about the 2019 elections, bringing the facts and the figures before you to help you make an informed decision. Originally, our plan was to look at 2019 and the roles of international observers. But as is always the case, we started building up and other issues came on board and to a large extent took us off course. We'll take a short break for some commercial messages, And then we'll be back to continue with our discussions on the 2019 elections and international observers. Don't go away.
TMI, every opinion counts.
Thanks again for rejoining me on the program TMI Monday. Well, we'll continue with our conversations on the 2019 elections. Well, we'll bring Bryce Daniel Begier on board now. Bryce Daniel, you wanted to respond to some of the issues raised.
Yes,
Yeah.
you know, according to Oscar Wilde, he said truth can stand on its own. It doesn't require to be defended. Once you say the truth, just leave it. And that's why I like my friend Usama. He's focused on what is the truth. Because what is important is our humanity. We are first of all human beings, then we become Edo, then we become Nigerians, before we are even politicians. So let's focus on the truth. My friend here accused the PDP of doing certain things in 2012, 2010, in 2014.
That have undermined this
And
country.
these were before 2015. This, my friend here, was a member of PDP in 2015. He was fully involved in the Jonathan election.
I don't want us to make
He
it
was
personal.
even,
I don't want to make it personal.
He was even
No, just
in-
focus on the issues.
Yes,
Yeah.
he was even in some committees. So the point I'm making is that if you actually believe what you are saying, if you actually believe what the then central bank governor said about $20 billion, of course, which was not proven and which was not true, and which he retracted later, that of course he only suspected, but he didn't have any evidence.
No.
Now, if you actually believed and you still went on to support that same party, then that means people should take what you say with a pinch of salt. I will focus on what is true. People are saying the truth. People go to the market. People buy things. PDP has had 16 years. APC has had 4 years. And people can compare which is better. But even at that, let's even leave parties. Because in Nigeria, there's no clear-cut demarcation among the parties. That's the truth. It's about individuals. And with what this current president has shown in the last 4 years, is it the person that should lead us to the future? Is it the person that should lead us and our children to the future?
Nigerians will decide.
Yes,
Nigerians will decide that.
I'm talking to Nigerians.
Yeah.
Now. Is it the one? We must look at him. We must look at the things he said. We must look at the things he has achieved in the last 4 years. We must look at his campaign promises. We must look at the discrepancies in the things he said. That many doctors have even said that he probably suffers from dementia because of some of the things that he has said in his campaign, handing over flour to wrong persons and saying, not be able to understand even basic things.
That could just be a mistake. Everybody makes a
No,
mistake.
no, no,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah.
Happens once,
Repeated
happens
me.
the
Let us on this
second time,
please,
happens the
sir.
third time,
Please.
happens the fourth
Let
time,
him
happens the fifth time. It keeps happening. It's a pattern. So that means that is who he is. So we are in very perilous situation. And Nigeria needs rescue.
Okay.
It's not about political parties.
Who is not the rescue?
It's about rescuing Nigeria.
Who is the rescue?
With somebody that would be the better.
All right, now let's not take this to a campaign podium.
Okay.
It's a studio, and we need to stay on course. We're going straight now to look at the roles of international observers. I mean, that has been a thorny issue in the last couple of days, and we'll be getting reactions and counter reactions. Let's get our panelists into the 2019 elections and, of course, the roles of international observers. Obara, is quite interesting that I'd like to start with you because you just build it up gradually. Not much energy and all of that. Yeah, are you comfortable with the reactions that this issue of international observers' presence in the 2019 election is generating in the polity?
Yeah, naturally, the reason why international observers issue has now turned one of a news headline is because of what we have for the very just now. The truth must be told. We cannot do away with an observer in an election because election is not within Obara as an individual. If the four of us decide to have an election today in this place, we need an observer within or outside here to say this was what happened, because I'm not going to speak. Buhari is not going to come out to say the election was successful, neither article or so worry. But if somebody from UN, from a neutral ground tell you what I saw in Nigeria was good, it's a welcome development. So we should not shy away from the truth. We cannot padlock them or lock to say we no longer need it. It was international observers that also saved Nigeria, the 2015 Iglo, when Jonathan Goodluck lost that election. When some of them came up to say what they saw was good, some say it was not so good. But when you have more people saying this thing was good, it became a welcome development. So I welcome the issue of international observer. If any party decide not to welcome them, I don't see it as a welcome development, because international observer in a sane society, what they think, they are not here to vote. They are here to see how the voting process comes up and how it ends. So we need them even for future elections. This one, you cannot, the party in power should even be happy that international observer is coming. If you really done well, if I decide to run for any political office today, I will welcome them to say, come and see the way I'm going to beat Obege in the field. Come and see how I beat him. Come and see how I will beat him. So that you will be the judge. Come and be the judge.
So for you, this is a welcome development.
A very welcome development.
College Esquire. Yeah. Some have described these international observers as, describe them as interfering with our internal democracy. Do you subscribe?
And that is very strange to me, because in all the elections in the past, we have welcomed these international observers with open arms. As a matter of fact, in 2015, the APC actually openly invited these international observers to come into the country in droves, which they did. All right, and they certified the election process. And the election observers have always said, we do not take part in the elections. We only observe the process. We want to see how people have kept, to the guidelines of the elections. And so it became a very strange thing to hear the governor of Kaduna State say that when they come in, they are coming to interfere and they should get ready to be taken back in body bags. And I'm like, for a sitting governor to make a comment like that, then something is wrong. That means that they are uncomfortable with the plans that they have made. The international observers will burst their bubbles. And that's why they are now uncomfortable with international observers coming in, because all over the world, especially in third world countries, we expect and we invite international observers to come and give credibility to the election process. Now we have the EU, we have the AU, we have the ECOWAS. They are all interested in the election, and this is because of the heat that has built up. All right, they have found, and this is even, I'm saying that for the first time, international observers are needed more than at any other time in the history of this country. Because what we find on ground are the fact that these elections could be very turbulent. All right, and we need people from outside who will be neutral, because they say, listen, we're not interested in who wins. We are only interested in the process. Okay. So what problem should anybody have with those kind of people? All right, they are not going to tell anybody vote for party A or vote for party B. They are only coming to observe the process, to see whether people have been induced to vote by vote buying, to see whether there's thuggery, to see whether there's a snatching of ballot boxes, to see whether the rules are kept. And I think that anybody who has a clean mind should welcome such people. It is somebody who has something to hide, somebody who has a devious plan that would be against the invitation of such people. And I think that Nigerians should be on the lookout, because we believe that the government in power wants to skew this process, and we all need to be on the lookout. That's why we have encouraged people, when you go out to vote, after you're voting, stay there, wait for the votes to be counted. All right, capture the electoral officer announcing the result. Capture him, all right, on your list, and then let us see whether these results will change whenever they are announced later at the headquarters. Because we believe that that's what's going to happen. That's why, because otherwise there will be no reason whatsoever for anybody to be against the invitation of international observers who have always come in here peacefully. They have never interfered with the process. They have never given any false judgment or anything.
But there have been some comments by some of these international observers allegedly that seems to make them look.
The United States said that if anybody would interfere with the process or would do anything wrong, that they will deny those people visas to enter the US. Okay. What's wrong with that? What's wrong with that? All right, this is to keep everybody on check. Keep everybody checked. So if you interfere with the process or you deal wrongly with the process, we will deny you visas to come to the US. What's wrong with that?
Okay, let me pursue that. Stanley.
We really need to understand something here. Let us not begin to blow issue out of proportion. Nobody is saying that no international observers should be that we should prevent international observers from entering Nigeria. But what we need to understand here is simple. Why the double standard? Is there any international observer in the US election? If there is, we need it here as well. Excuse me, we need it here as well. So nobody, let us not. I'm coming, sir. Now I'm coming here. Just hold on. We need international observers here, but in this case, let the international observers be sincere to themselves and let them not give any support to any political party whatsoever. But again, why will this current administration be afraid of international observers? There is nobody. Administration will be afraid, because if you look at it, you talked about the campaign achievement. If you look at what this government has achieved for a long period of time now, there is need for anybody to do this election free and fair. Look at the issue of Boko Haram. Why the PDP was in power before the run-up of 2015 elections, we know how Abuja, which was the seat of power, was receiving daily bombing. We know about the Mandala bombing, we know about Barak bombing, we know the UN house bombing, we know the police headquarters bombing. All this bombing was even taking place in the seat of power. But as of today, this group of Boko Haram that these persons want to use to play politics have been restricted to a specific enclave. Before, go to Yobe State, Kano State. In fact, virtually all parts of the country have a fair share. But the security architecture of this country have been stabilized. Even America, that we see, or even UK, or any country of the world, developed country, they are still plagued with terrorism. So you cannot use that to score political points against this administration. As far as we are concerned, we know that the Boko Haram has been restricted to a specific enclave, and by the power of our ubiquitous God, if the APC is re-elected, they are going to ensure that this group of insurgents is quenched to the barest minimum.
All right,
and again,
Pastor Daniel, I'll come to you now. Yes, Pastor Daniel.
But he accused me of being a member of PDP in the past, and I said it is series of committees. I wanted to respond.
You have to out of here.
Yes.
Even if I'm out of here, I wanted to respond.
But as Sonny Dew, it is quite unfortunate that senior members of our society could make the statement that they were reported to have made. I saw El-Rufai, threatening international observer that if they interfere, what kind of interference was he talking about? They are not members of INEC. They are not going to be involved in the election. They are going to observe the process of the election. If it was free and fair, say that they will go back in body bags. Nigeria is not in isolation. Nigeria is a member of the international community, and Nigeria is a third world country. So the international community must be interested in what goes on in Nigeria. So
to enforce neocolonialism? Neocolonialism?
Just hold on.
But he has been
can you just interrupting me? Just hold on.
Okay. Anything that affects Nigeria affects the whole of Africa and the whole of the world. So before it happens, the international community must be.
Who is the international community?
They must be.
Stanley, can you just
in 2015, they were proactive. In 2015, they were involved in the election, and they monitored the election. Of course, Goodluck Jonathan considered and made that call. Then in 2019, some people are threatening them. Bola Tinubu made a similar statement that they should come in and leave immediately. All these are just geared towards, heating up the polity and making people scared to go and vote. I want to encourage Nigerians to come out and vote.
Okay. If you just join us, it's still TMI Monday. Just on the last lap of our discussions today on the 2019 elections, looking at the roles that international observers are supposed to play. It's on record that primarily they are to monitor, they are to observe. That's why they are referred to as international observers. And I listened to the head of the EU delegation saying their job is to monitor the election and present their findings. They are not in any way going to participate in the election by way of voting or supporting any candidate. And the US government has also come out to say, well, they are not supporting any candidate for that matter. But the question now on our concluding lap of this discussion is, what do Nigerians want in this 2019 elections? Omari.
Yeah, before I just quickly answer your question, I want to chip what I experienced October 15th. Yeah, October 15th, I went with my family to the Dublin embassy. And as I was seated, I sat with about 4 or 5 senior old men and women and Nigerians, yeah. And they were going to Dublin. They were seeking visa to go to Dublin to monitor Dublin's election that took place in November. Yeah, I'm not telling you something that somebody told me. I'm telling you
what you saw.
Yes, 1, 2, 3. I was the 6th person. The first 5 people seated before me was all INEC senior officers, and some of them were going with their families too. And I asked the woman there, I said, he said they are going to monitor Dublin's election. So Nigeria's monitoring Dublin's election, and Dublin not coming to monitor Nigeria's election. To me, you can see that is not it.
There's a disconnect.
I saw this.
Okay.
So we should not try to shy away from the truth. You don't sweat when you are sweatless when you say it. So coming to your question, what does Nigeria want? Nigeria wants total change. Ogbege knows me, and people, I don't even support the boat. But can we do without the boat for the very just time? No. Because people are hungry. We already have a defection in the system already. That 80% of people you see shouting needs money and food in their system. So Nigerians no longer need that. What we need now is a better representation, authentic representation, developmental representation. People with ideas, not mediocres coming to shout when it's not yet. So Nigerians now manage what you have for the very just now until we get there. The crop of leaders we have, I've said it times without number, the crops of leaders we have in all cannot save us. What they do, just watch what they do. If Buhari wins on Saturday, by next week, next 2 weeks, just people like Ogbege and Okonofa that I know, the rest will still mass decamping. From this side to people coming again. If it also goes the other way, God forbid, you see mass infection again from party to this same set of people. This same set of people only this same thing. The only thing that makes them drop it is death. No one will tell you because Buhari is not working well, I want to resign. Because Atiku did not work well, I want to resign. Have you ever heard that in our system? No.
So it's all about self-preservation.
Self-preservation. So to me, we should start thinking the way out.
Okay. All right.
Until we start this, until we reduce the monetary issue in politics. Politics will not be for people that has the brain and no pulse. Until we make it not welcoming. Yeah. Until senators sit down, they are being paid just like my mother that's a pensioner. Until the House of Rep members are being paid like the councillor in Oredo. Until the ministers are being paid like commissioners here. No security, do it as if maybe selfless service. Yeah. Service. You will see things will start going out well. Not immediately when you hear tomorrow, Sonny Duke Okoso has been appointed as Subek chairman. And the next thing you see, your house will have become Mecca. People coming, not even asking Sonny Duke Okoso, do you know you can lay down your good name in the sound of time with this position? Nobody will come and tell you that. What you see them telling you is, please, my son will be looking for a job. These people just negativity. So we should have a rethink our orientation.
All right, Pastor Collins, what do Nigerians want in 2019?
The issues are very clear. The issues are very clear. Right now, there is starvation in the land, and this is staring everybody in the face. People want food on their tables. All right. When you talk about the fact that, okay, there was corruption, at that time there was food on the table. All right. As a matter of fact, I got some people who sent me messages and said to me, you know what, if during corruption we had food on our table, fuel was 87 naira, naira was 150, the bag of rice was 7,500. I think we should welcome corruption back. All right, because besides, they say that they have recovered. I was watching a debate on Channels TV last night, and one of the persons representing Buhari was talking about trillions of naira that they have recovered. And we are asking, if you have recovered all these sums of money, to what use have you put this money? Exactly. Why is there still so much starvation in the land? Why are things still so difficult? At the time when you have recovered trillions of naira, you said they have recovered mansions, they have recovered lands, they have recovered naira, they have recovered euro, they have recovered dollars, and they have recovered pounds. What use have you put this money to? That Nigerians are still suffering. Are you keeping this money in a vote? For what purpose? Buhari, when he came in 1983, I want us never to forget. And this is my point.
We're not in 1983 now.
No, we're not in 1983. But you must move back. You must move back in order to move forward.
I want us to stay
what
on
I'm talking
now.
about.
Let's talk about just
what
now.
I'm talking about,
yes,
sir.
Yes.
In 1983, we had an era like this. There was starvation. There was lack. There was scarcity. People were queuing up to buy bread and buy milk. It was called essential commodity. The reason why I say this is because, as I've always said on this program, the characteristics of a kingdom derive from the king. Yes. How the king is, how the kingdom will be. Yes. When Buhari left in 1985, when he was removed, immediately there was abundance in the land. Now, right now, with all the corruption, look at where we are. We are suffering as a people. We want to take this man out so that we will come, we'll bring somebody who knows how to run the economy.
But that's
all right, because again, sir, I'm part of the electorate.
I know.
I am part of the electorate.
So
I have a duty.
Leave that the electorate will decide that we need to.
Why am I here?
Yes.
Why am I here?
Yeah, because
why am I here?
You're an electorate.
I'm here to educate people and to tell them what my beliefs are.
Okay.
And I'm saying that right now, between the two major candidates, right, that are standing for election on Saturday, Nigerians have to look at these people. One is a man who has been president now for the past almost 4 years. All right, the man he visited Donald Trump in America. That Donald Trump is a man who speaks no holds barred. He said the man who he spoke to, he was a lifeless man. All right. We also have people who have looked at him and they said this man has nothing to offer. The man. He spent more than 180 days in a hospital in London, spending Nigeria's resources. And right now, from what we see, we know that the man, with all due respect to him, is not very well. I think that this man should be advised to retire home, go and rest. It is obvious. Besides, the 78
medical doctor.
The 70. Oh, come on now. These are obvious.
I mean,
these are obvious. The man also. The man is incompetent. He's incompetent. We know that. All right, he has not shown any level of competence in running the economy, in fighting security, in fighting insecurity,
let me pause you there.
In fighting corruption.
Those are your views.
He has shown lopsidedness in fighting corruption. The fight against corruption is actually a fight against opposition. Those are your
views.
Even Oshoman has said the other day that once you cross over to APC, your sins are forgiven.
Can I pause you?
Can you imagine that? That sums up their fight against corruption.
Collins, can you pause? All right, thank you.
First, I want us to understand something here. If Malam Nasir El-Rufai says something about body bags, he's not speaking for the government. The government did not say international observers should not come to Nigeria for the election. Let's get that clear. And again, let us really know where we are coming from. The same Atiku Abubakar that you are campaigning for right now was part of the Nigerian process. And as we speak, the man is as well richer than Nigeria, a mere custom officer. How did he get his wealth? Yes. How did he get his wealth? Let's be sincere to ourselves. That is that in that area.
The question I asked is, what do Nigerians want?
I want to go to the question. Listen,
yeah.
Look at what Nigerians want. When we talk about Nigerians want a corrupt-free society. And as we speak today, the regime of the APC have been fighting this corruption. That is why today the likes of you people are against the removal of the CGN in Oren, because you know quite well that he has been perverting justice for you people. So the truth of the matter is very simple. The double standard is playing within the shores of the PDP. What Nigerians want is a sincere society. Again, let's look at the process where we are coming from. When you say economic recession, what happens? The then Minister of Finance advises Nigerians under your government. The then CBN governor advises Nigeria under your government. As at 2009 to 2015, the least expected resources that Nigeria was getting from the process of crude was about $150 per barrel. But when Buhari came in, what was the price? It was about $30-something per barrel. How do you expect the same? You know the amount of foreign exchange that the PDP got for the good 16 years that they ruled this country? And then, apart from
The Yar'Adua regime in PDP. No other regime can be right home about when it comes to issue of development. But as of today, what you see in this country is as a result of the failure of your past dispensation. That's what we are seeing today. But now we have a particular problem in this country, which is lack of consistency in policy implementation by successive administration or regime. Even PDP regime refuses to continue to implement the project of the fellow PDP regime. All their project became a white elephant project. But as of today, when President Buhari came in, instead of him to push away all Jonathan project and re-establish new one, he decided to consolidate on what have been created in the past. As of today, we have a well-orchestrated standard gauge moving on railway line organized in the country. At least, if PDP created a well-orchestrated foundation, we wouldn't have been where we are today. Let Buhari continue to do the needful. Let him continue to create a well-orchestrated foundation, and at the end of the day, Uhuru will be achievable. Okay. And again, so those persons who are saying that the man is sick, the man is old, the man is this. How old is Atiku Abubakar? Atiku Abubakar is even older than Nigeria himself. So that is the truth. So if you want to substitute President Buhari, substitute him with a more credible candidate, not even Atiku Abubakar, whom we know to be the king of corruption, as accused by Nigeria.
All right, that statement, I'd like you to withdraw that statement, because here we present facts, and then even if you are making your presentation, it should be in line with the rules of engagement.
I would like.
Now you heard when.
Okay, let me withdraw it.
When he said, yeah, please.
Okay,
yeah.
I withdraw this statement, but I still want to question Atiku. A May custom officer, how did you acquire the amount of wealth that you have today?
Yes, sir,
I see that as process of
But yeah.
Well,
what do Nigerians want? What do Nigerians want?
Yes, but Stanley just indicted his government. Buhari, because Buhari has been there for 4 years. And if you say that Atiku is a corrupt person, he has not been prosecuted till now. So that means the government is corrupt.
Besides,
Atiku
was with them.
But having
Atiku
said
was
that,
with them.
yes,
Using Atiku's plane
yes,
to fly up and down.
Haven't even said that. What do Nigerians want? Nigerians want a president that will be in charge. Nigerians want a president that will be hale and hearty enough, that will be competent enough, that will have the mental capacity to be actually president. Not a president that will be pushed around by 2 or 3 people. According to Aisha Buhari, the wife of the president. We want a president that will stand, that will roll up his sleeve. We are not against the age of Buhari. We are against the age of his ideas. Stone age ideas. We don't want anymore. We cannot use 17th century ideas to run a 21st century government. Nigerians are very dynamic people. It is sad that we've been saddled with the kind of president we've had in the last 4 years. Even many people in APC, they've said they won't vote for him.
Don't say that.
A service commissioner.
No, don't say that. Don't say that. Don't say that. Nobody said that.
Say you won't vote for him.
No, that's a lie. That's a lie.
But what is going on? So Nigerians want a president that will be in charge. Nigerians want food on their table. Nigerians want jobs. And that is what Atiku is promising. Atiku means business. Atiku means job. Atiku is the founder.
When you get to your campaign podium, you can say all of that.
You're already campaigning.
I said Nigerians want jobs. And that's what Atiku Abubakar will provide. Because he has promised that he will provide 25 million jobs in the next 4 years, and that is very achievable.
Okay, now let's conclude. Let's conclude this way on this discussion segment. Are Nigerians ready to do the needful, vote their minds and their conscience? Are Nigerians ready to avoid their conscience being bought? Because what has been a seemingly prevalent activity is that their votes are being bought. INEC is saying, don't bring your phones to the polling booths. INEC is saying that. Why? You have instances recorded, even international observers have confirmed this, where people vote and then they snap just to show that they actually voted for the person that is going to give them money wants them to vote for, and then they get paid. So I want your final thoughts in a minute. Obara.
Thank you so much, Madina.
Yeah.
I think I don't always like beating around the bush. If you ask a question, go straight to the point.
Yeah.
Are Nigerians ready? No. Nigerians are not ready for a credible election. If Nigerians are ready, the millions of PVCs at INEC office won't be there. That is one. Secondly, I've said it times with that number. There is no way you can stop vote buying at election ground. Nigeria is not so ready
to change that.
Yes. Let me just give you a clue on how it will go. The issue of phone does not even tell it. Because you cannot also have camera phones in my grandmother's village in Igoke.
Where vote buying will take place.
Yes. So you cannot have that. Those who are not even use phone. The way they are going to use it, we are here now. This is the table where you collect it from INEC. You collect your paper, the ink will be at the end point. By the time he or she goes there to print, that person will not fold it up there. The person is coming to fold it up and drop it at a box that is close to all of us here.
Yeah.
When you tell the person, madam, fold it, you tell you no, if I fold down, the ink will disturb the other side. The person will bring it openly for use for the Duke to see it while dropping. So the Duke would now signal Thomas Ado at the gate to say, so that person will not give Sonny Duke the money.
So this is a chain reaction.
Me, I'm telling you.
That was introduced by the PDP.
This is the pattern. So, you know, he said, for ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. The inner mind of Ogbege knows that. Yes. He's going to be vote buying. But can you say it openly? No.
Okay, let me.
Are you getting it?
Our time is up.
Nigerians on their own are not ready.
Okay, Collins Esquire. Nigerians are they ready for this election?
Well, I think that basically we have to be, all right? We've got just a few
No,
days.
we have to be. Are we ready?
I said, I think we are ready.
Okay.
All right? We have just a few days to go that will decide the future of this country. All right? The question to ask is, are people satisfied with their circumstances right now? Are you satisfied with the way things are with your life right now? Can life be better for you? Can Nigeria afford to make life better for us as Nigerians? Of course, yes. And we have the future in our hands with our PVCs. Okay. So I'm encouraging Nigerians to go out and vote on Saturday. Don't also be discouraged by anybody who tells you there will be violence. My wife was telling me last night, do you think it will be safe? I said it will be very safe to go out and vote. Nobody's going to disturb you. We will vote. We will stay there and wait for the votes to be counted. We will snap and make sure that the results are captured, that nobody can interfere with the process. Nobody, they say there are going to be military people, there are going to be police, they are going to be...
Those are for security.
They are not there to disturb anybody. They are there to secure the place. So Nigerians are ready.
Stanley.
Yes, Nigerians are ready, and that is why I will always use this opportunity as well to still greet Obasanjo, because he said it in his book, My Watch, that Atiku Abubakar, the money he stole is enough to take care of more than 400.
There is no court.
Yes, it says more than take care of more than 400 million people in 400 years.
Let me correct something. Hold on. Whatever was said is in a book. There is no court of competence, because this is why we talk about the Constitution and the rule of law.
That was Obasanjo's statement. Now, the same Obasanjo is campaigning for him today.
The rule of law. I just asked you a question.
Yes.
Are Nigerians ready?
Yes, and I've answered that question already, and I'm just trying to elucidate. I'm trying to elucidate.
Yes.
And it's in the same way, he said,
Are Nigerians
Nigerians are ready for the elections.
Are Nigerians ready?
Yes. But the same Obasanjo is campaigning for him today.
Yes.
Let me align with my friend and brother here, and my elder brother.
And you are not aligning with me.
And also my younger brother. You know, I will also. You know, we are all one. We are all friends actually.
Yeah.
But Nigerians should be ready, because the 5,000 naira a politician gives to you to buy your vote today will mean 1,250 naira a year. He's paying you 1,250 naira a year. 5,000 naira for 4 years means 1,250 naira a year. Is that the worth of your life? So if you take the money and vote against the person you don't want, then don't complain. There's going to be a problem. You are bringing a cost upon yourself.
Okay, so that's our show today. I want to say big thanks to all our panelists. Barrister Daniel Ogbege, thank you.
Thank you very much for having me.
Barry, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Collins Esquire, thank you. And Ustaz Stanley, thank you.
Thank you.
You established a peace in Edo State.
That's our discussion segment. The news is just around the corner. I will be back after the news to conclude the show. Remember, Corpus Classic is just around the corner. It's Valentine's special. Azagba Mobile is behind us on that one. Fantastic prizes to be won in the competition that we're going to be having. Stay tuned. We'll be back with you in a moment.